much. So I thought I'd start with a bit of a story. So, era un día luminoso y soleado en el jardín. Bumper el abejorro estaba zigzagueando al lado de la puerta de su casa. ¿Por qué no vas a ver a tus amigos, Bumper? Preguntó la reina abejorro. Bumper se puso triste. No vuelo bien. Hago zigzag y siempre choco con cosas. Ya ves. Por eso me llaman Bumper el abejorro. Well, close, Katie. But actually, it's Bumper the Bumblebee and Friends. So, Bumper the Bumblebee and Friends is also now available as Bumper el Abejorro y sus Amigos, translated by me. And these arrived while I was on holiday, so I thought I would share kind of an insight into other things that I do with Spanish, not just about learning. So, translated a children's book, and that was the opening page of it. So yeah, he was Bumper was stood by his front door, and he was a bit sad because he couldn't fly very well, but you'll have to find out. Now, this is the power of networking. I actually met Jenny, who's JT Scott, the author. Don't know if you can see it there. No. Good old backdrop. I met her through networking. We connected. We actually met at the BSN Awards the first time. Jenny Leggett, yeah, and she's way down on the south coast of the UK, and I'm all the way up north near the Lake District. But we connected through networking, and we were able to produce these the first translated book, and hopefully that will be the first of many. Now, that's a great outcome from networking. It's a great use of my language skills. It's not just the only thing that I do with my language. While I was away last week, I was actually in communication via WhatsApp in a three-way chat with somebody who lives in Spain, whose Spanish isn't fantastic, and the garage that they've got, their English isn't fantastic, but it was MOT time. So I was doing the link, the go-between. This is a lady for whom during lockdown, we looked at 200 properties. Now you say in lockdown, we couldn't travel. No, we looked at them online virtually. She'd have a look. I would contact the estate agents. I had the list of her criteria for finding that house. I would ring up and speak to either the vendor or the estate agent, have that conversation. Yeah, 200 properties we looked at. It was a little bit crazy, but we managed to find her dream property. She bought it. I helped point her in the direction of things like, did you know that in Spain, not just the vendor, but also the purchaser have to pay the estate agent's commission? Little things like that. You know, you say, well, it's only 2 or 3%. It's only 5%. You're spending 200 grand on a property. That's a big lump of money. You know, it's money that you might be wanting to use for the refurb of the property, that sort of thing. So it's important to know these things when you go into them. Those are the sort of things I can help with. I've helped her get her car registered in Spain, her British car. She took it over. And it's form filling, it's bureaucracy, it's things like that, where even if you speak the language, it's going to be fun filling out a form, isn't it? Let's face it, most of us struggle to fill in forms when they're in English. If you add the challenge in that it's not your first language, that's where I can help. I've also had things like a lady who, again, I met networking. I'm not going to say this for everybody, because literally everybody that I've taught Spanish to, I've met through networking, or they've been referred through somebody networking. It works, folks. But this lady, her parents, she wanted to give them she lives up in northern Scotland, and she wanted to give her parents a sunshine break in January and February. So paid for them to go over to one of the Canary Islands. And while they were out there, her dad had a problem with his eye for a known issue that he was under the care of an ophthalmologist in Scotland for. He needed to see an ophthalmologist, not an optician. And to find that required somebody who knew what the word for ophthalmologist, because they tried searching for it themselves, and all they were coming up with opticians, different speciality. What did I do? Well, I found the right clinic that needed to help him. I phoned up because although the doctor spoke excellent English, the receptionist didn't. I made the appointment. I found a local taxi firm that took them to this appointment. This was a couple in their 80s. They had a fabulous appointment with a doctor who spoke excellent English. He got the treatment he needed. Now, those sorts of things are things that can ruin a holiday. Through one of the Facebook groups that I'm on, somebody his wife was admitted to hospital. She was quite poorly. She had food poisoning, but it kind of got to the point of being admitted to hospital poorly. He was also dealing with 2 young children, and the hospital weren't being particularly helpful, I must admit. So I was able to just have a word with the nurses and say, look, he can use Google Translate, but his wife was trying to say, I need somewhere to charge my phone so that I can communicate with the outside world. That little detail was where I was able to have that conversation. It took 2 minutes. Somebody rang me up about 8 p.m. Well, actually, she sent me a WhatsApp message first, to be fair. Her client was returning to southern Spain, to the airport, a day before he'd intended to, because stuff happens and plans have to change. And they couldn't get through the message to the airport security parking when he had left his car, because this guy lives in Spain habitually, that he needed his car 24 hours earlier. His flight was arriving at about midnight. Phone call to the car park people out there saying, Mr. Smith, he needs his car 24 hours early. This is the registration. Can you have it ready? He arrived, the car was there. Not a problem. It's easy when you speak the language. It's a 2-minute phone call. But if you rely on Google Translate, it can sometimes be slightly skewy and can result in the message getting completely messed up. So who do you know who needs that little bit of help, or who is starting a project and they're going to need considerable input? One of the things I did during lockdown was I helped somebody set up a business in Spain, filling in all the forms, making sure all the I's were dotted, all the T's were crossed. That business got off to a start successfully. She then messed it up, but that was on her. But the setting up all the bureaucracy, that was all done correctly, and she was able to start operating. So who do you know who wants to start a restaurant maybe, or wants to start a bed and breakfast, or that sort of thing? And maybe they're wanting to cater to English people, but they need to fill the forms in Spanish. So it's all those sorts of things that I can help with. I used to do admin for a living, both in English and in Spanish. So filling in forms and those sort of things hold no fears for me. So yeah, I just thought I'd share some examples of the sort of work I can do, and the sort of people that I can help. And remember, WhatsApp, as long as you've got Wi-Fi, it's all good. So if you're stuck, drop me a WhatsApp and I always try to get it. So let's have a look. Yeah, so just reading a comment in the chat, it just depends what you need. If you get somebody who speaks the local language, it makes a big difference. So that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. I think it's always nice to see some of the stuff that you get involved in, and like I said, I've popped in the chat that whole how things are translated. If you stick it into Google Translate, can make a big difference. I had an issue when I was traveling when I was in my mid-20s, and it was a mistake in the hotel address, but I was in China. So, and the only place my phone didn't work in China was in the middle of Shanghai, which is where I was. So I couldn't ring my mate to get him or his wife to have a chat with them. So after 2 hours, he and like myself and the taxi driver decided that was it. And yeah, it was definitely that one over there, even though it wasn't, although that hotel then found my actual hotel, which was very helpful of them. But having that local knowledge makes a massive difference. So my question to you is, what's the weirdest request you've ever had for help with?
So this lady who's in the process of sorting out her MOT, the garage we knew from a couple of years ago, but stuff happened with the pet transport person who this lady is connected to. She's a narcissist and she's bullied and she's not afraid of threatening people. Not very nice human being. And we were trying to contact the garage guy who we knew from lockdown, so we've known him for a while, and he wasn't answering his WhatsApp. So I did a deep dive into his website, his socials, all that sort of thing, found an email address. He doesn't make it very easy for people to contact him. Found an email address, dropped him an email and said, "Are you okay?" Because we were thinking, has this woman threatened him to not contact us? Because it's the sort of thing she does. I didn't suggest that. I just said, "Oh, are you okay? We've tried contacting you via WhatsApp and we've not heard anything." Got a reply saying, "Actually, I was getting so many threatening messages from our mutual friend, this woman, that I've actually cancelled my WhatsApp and it's a police investigation. Please, can we communicate via email going forward?" Absolutely no problem. And yes, if she brings the car into me next Tuesday, I'll do the MOT. Absolutely no problem. I've got no issues dealing with you ladies. So, but if I hadn't been able to read the websites in Spanish, we'd have lost that contact and I'd have had to look for a new trusty, reliable mechanic, which they're not easy to find in any language.
Even in the UK, love, let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. so yeah, that was probably the weirdest one, because I kind of had to go full CSI and track him down through other means when WhatsApp had always been very reliable.
Nice.
But
nice.
Managed to re-establish contact, so all's well that ends well.
Excellent. And in terms of so I know you do you do kind of do teaching of Spanish.
Yes.
What's the minimum that you ask somebody to commit to?
The answer is it depends. Ideally, if people have very little language awareness, because we all start from different points, and they want to be fluent enough to have a good holiday, so be able to read a menu, ask for directions, that sort of thing, I would say the minimum is 10 lessons.
Okay.
That can be done in however sort of time frame people want. The shortest time frame I've done that in was 12 lessons in 2 weeks. Somebody who was very motivated to learn. It was absolutely knackering, but we were in the depths of lockdown and there wasn't a lot else going on, so it was okay. But yeah, it's individual ability varies a lot. But I've only ever met one person who just couldn't hear the language. He just couldn't hear the pronunciation and stuff.
Was it a bit like that whole kind of Joey thing? Yeah.
Yes, it was. It was, yeah, pretty much. And I actually said to him, we always do a tester session, and I said to him in the tester session, I don't think this is going to work. And he's like, "Well, I've always been told I'm too thick to learn a language." It's like, I don't think you're too thick. I just don't think you can hear it.
Yeah.
He's a very capable person in what he does. He's not thick at all. He just hasn't got, like, some people can hear music and some people can't. He just couldn't hear it.
Yeah. Wow.
So, but only one person in what 50 plus years on this planet. So most people can have a decent bash of it.
Fab, thank you. Any final question for Sylvia before we do some chatty chat between ourselves.
I guess,
Heather.
I guess that's pretty much covered my question, but there might be another aspect to that. If somebody's going to Spain, say in a month's time, how quickly can you get them up and running if they've not really got much Spanish apart from Buenos dias?
Yeah, so if they're going in a month, we might have to do 2 lessons a week. You know, that's the sort of I do an hour lesson at a time, and mostly occasionally I'll do half hours. But yeah, an hour a couple of times a week over 4 weeks.
I know it's how long is a piece of string, but on average, how much practice does somebody have to do as a rough average? I mean, it depends on neurons and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and it depends how fluent you want to be. If you want to be able to, as I say, that for me the basics is finding your way around, so asking for directions, being able to read street signs, being able to work your way through a menu and work out what's on there. And it depends where you're going. Certain parts of Spain are more English friendly than others, and I don't shy away from that. You know, you can put in a load of work and then you get to the menu and it's in English and Spanish, which is great. It can also be really funny if you know both languages, because some of the translations are a little bit Google translating.